Today is the day, the National Newspaper Publishers Association's National Leadership Reception, where tonight we honor Olympic record setter Allison Felix, Doctors James Hildreth and Ebony Hilton, Congresswoman Cori Bush, and Senators Cory Booker and Raphael Warnock. But first, before the reception, we have a very, very special guest. Gabrielle Union is an actress, executive producer, activist, best-selling author, and most recently, a Time 100 cover honoree. Gabrielle Union formed her production shingle I'll Have Another in 2018 with the goal of telling stories that center marginalized communities with their specific point of views in an authentic manner. No one is more authentic than Gabrielle Union. In August of 2020, she relaunched her hair care brand, Flawless by Gabrielle Union, for women with textured hair. The new and improved collection includes an array of options affordably priced between $4 and $10 that empowers consumers to customize a regimen specific to their texture and style preferences. Prior to relaunching Flawless, Gabrielle Union learned of the disparities in the food space and joined Bitsy's as a co-founder with the goal of making healthy, allergen-friendly, school-safe snacks that are accessible and affordable for all families, regardless of their socioeconomic or geographical status. Her first book, We're Going to Need More Wine, Stories That Are Funny, Complicated, and True, was released in 2017, and boy, oh boy, it instantly became a New York Times bestseller. But you gotta read this one, and I'm a proud owner of it. You got anything stronger? Well, Gabrielle Union certainly does, and she is going to join us in a moment. But first, let's bring on the president and CEO of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis Jr. Good morning, Dr. Chavis.
Good morning, good afternoon, and we are greetings as we prepare for our National Leadership Awards reception. But listen, I'm going to be very brief because to have the opportunity to speak directly to Gabrielle Union, I mean, she's one of the sheroes. She's one of the freedom fighters. And so many, as an entrepreneur, as an actress, as a person who lifts up the best of not only for Black Americans, but for all of humanity. We're just pleased that the Black press can have time to have an exchange with Gabrielle Union.
Yeah, and you know what's wonderful too, Dr. Chavis? She puts her money where her mouth is. She walks the walk, talks the talk. She is the champion of breast health, combating sexual violence too. And she's going to talk. Let's bring her on, Dr. Chavis. You got anything stronger? Nothing stronger than Gabrielle Union. Hey, Gabrielle Union.
How are you? Good morning.
Greetings.
How are you? Great to have you.
Thank you for joining the Black Press of America, Gabrielle.
No, thank you. And I got to apologize for this robe. Full transparency, I spilled coffee right before I sat down, and so
it's no problem.
I do apologize.
No problem. You're fine.
You need something stronger than coffee then, right? You got anything stronger? This is the book, y'all. Gabrielle Union, tell us about what motivated you to write this. I mean, it is so refreshing to see a superstar just put these words to paper. What motivated you?
You know, honestly, after writing the first book and seeing the response and doing the book tour, and at each stop, it was like a revival. And people were like, oh my God, I thank you for talking about this. Thank you for talking about that. I feel seen. I feel heard. I thought I was going crazy. Thank you for writing this. And thank you for doing this tour. And I knew that I had left out a lot from that first book because I just wasn't really ready to talk about a lot of those topics, a lot of those tougher topics. So in the last 4 years, a lot has happened. And I've also had a lot of therapy. And so I've healed enough to be able to really talk about these, you know, some of the tougher subjects and be completely transparent. I've adopted more of a radical transparency philosophy because I realize that it builds community. So many of us feel like we are drowning in plain sight and people are looking at us and walking by and holding on to the life preserver without throwing one back. And so with this book, I hope to throw back the proverbial life jacket and save some of us and say, look, we're all in the same boat. Like, we can save ourselves. We can share resources. We can share stories. We can build community, and we can pull more of us along with us. And so that was the goal with You Got Anything Stronger? Building community.
I love the title too. But you mentioned therapy. You know, we're still in a pandemic, right? And one of the things we've various different celebrities on A-listers that like yourself, if you will. And one of the things, the common theme is this: no matter how famous, no matter how much money, everybody was affected the same. And you see the mental health aspect that you're so great in talking about this. What have you seen over the past year and a half? Are you seeing are you seeing things getting better, or are you seeing things perhaps getting a little more alarming?
A bit more alarming. Whatever struggle that we had before the pandemic, all of those struggles, those personal struggles that we all have, they all just got exacerbated. But then also we're cut off from everyone. You don't want to go to the doctor, you don't want to go to a therapist, and you're kind of isolated in your own little bubble. You couldn't even talk to your clergy if you wanted to. And so a lot of people, you saw a lot more of those problems, just become monsters that they couldn't really control. I couldn't really control. So for me, during the pandemic, for the first time, I leaned into therapy via Zoom and, on FaceTime and all of that. And I started seeing a lot of my friends start posting about resources. So if you wanted a Black woman therapist in Tuscaloosa, here are the resources. Here are the resources for therapists who are offering low and no charge services because they recognize the need, and certainly in our community. So with this, we cannot let people suffer in silence and in isolation. So if the words can help, if some of the resources that I offer in the book help, and just encouraging folks that I know it feels a little weird telling a complete stranger some of your, some of your challenges, but I promise you there is salvation and healing at the end. So that's the hope and the goal.
Yeah, and before we delve further into the book, Dr. Chavis, I think it's such a magnificent thing to have someone like Gabrielle Union of her stature to speak so frankly about therapy. I'm sure that you talk to a lot of people, Dr. Chavis, in our community, and it's always a taboo subject.
Well, one of the things I've always admired about Gabrielle Union was her sister's authentic. She's real. And we go all the way back to the days of the Hip Hop Summit.
Yes.
And, did a lot of appearances together. And of course, Gabrielle, shout out to your husband, Dwayne Wade. He's also one of my heroes. But look, let me just say that, can you talk about the importance of therapy, not just for one person, but for the whole family, that we have whole communities that are under stress. And like you say, even before the COVID, African Americans were under a lot of stress because of all the disparities in our society. And it looks like even after Trump, everybody got a sigh of relief. There's a new administration in Washington, the Biden-Harris administration, and people are trying to have hope. But we're also dealing with a lot of stress because COVID has disproportionately impacted communities of color, particularly African Americans. But can you talk about how, as a mother now, as a leader in the community, that you use therapy as somewhat of almost a ministry?
Absolutely, and thank you for saying it like that, because there's also a thought in our community that to speak to a stranger that is not a person of the cloth, that is not part of the clergy, is somehow sacrilegious, somehow against God. God made therapists, so you're not talking out of school. You're not airing dirty laundry. You're speaking to a trained professional who will keep your secrets and offer a plan to health and wellness and salvation and light. And I know, I absolutely know it feels like the opposite of help to talk to, a stranger, but speaking to therapists, and also understand that finding the right therapist is like dating. If one doesn't work out, it's okay. They've been rejected before. So swipe right, swipe left, find another therapist, but don't give up. Everyone has been suffering in this pandemic, and certainly our community. And there is this lifeline that can help. Don't look the other way. Grab onto that help. That is what they are there for. That is what they are trained for. And they will not tell anybody. You know, sometimes when you tell, you know, family members or friends, it can be the topic at the next Thanksgiving. And that is not what therapy is about. It's not, they're not head shrinkers. They're not going to plant things in your head. It's for you to have a safe space, full privacy, to speak about your challenges and the things you want to improve on, in a safe space where, you know, she can give you a plan, or they can give you a plan of action to take, real steps, while also maintaining your privacy. You can't beat it. And with the you know, during the pandemic, they've really, you know, put together all sorts of resources anywhere in the country for low and no cost therapy, because that is how great the need is. And thank you, Black therapists, for leading that charge. Truly.
Absolutely. And so I want to go to the book. In the book, and I'm going to pick out a couple of things. I want you to just talk about it, if you will, Gabrielle. You write here, you can't even read or listen to a book without having something else productive going on. This is exactly the thing I am talking about. Whether or not you have kids, there's that creeping sense that you are borrowing your time from others. If it's not your family, it's your job, your friendships, your abs. I like that. And the most guilt-inducing, your potential. Anything for you is at the expense of something or someone else, and you're always in the red. Talk about that a little bit, if you will, because I think it's so profound.
You know, some people ask, you know, what does self-care mean to you? And I think it's, you know, that phrase is something we kind of chuckle at in our community. It's like, I wish I had the luxury of self-care. We got 80 jobs, a bunch of people to take care of. Who had, like, what? That's something for white folks. But I challenge you to re-examine the way you look at self-care. Self-care just means, you know, like when you're on the airplane and they say, you know, if something happens, there's a change in altitude, put your mask on first and then your child's. I can't be anything for my child if I have not taken care of myself first. Right. It's the same concept. So whether that be therapy, whether that just be stay a little extra time in the bathroom. A good excuse is to claim a gastrointestinal issue. Nobody wants to hear about it. Stay in there as long as you can. You know, bring your phone, play a game, you know, read a book, just sit in silence, read your Bible, whatever. Anything to give you a moment of peace. Yeah. We need peace in our lives. We need more peace, you know, emotionally, internally, externally in our communities. And it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you selfish. It means you have finally prioritized yourself, because for all of the things we have to be for everyone else, you need to be a little something for yourself as well.
Yeah. And folks, you got to read this book. You have to read this book. Here you write, and I find this to be very interesting too as a journalist. Before, and if I say your child's name wrong, please correct me. Kaavia James was born. Reporters asked me how I balance work and home, meaning my marriage and life as a stepmother. Dwayne was never asked about this, mind you. I was the only custodian asked to give progress reports. I find that so fascinating, and I can see that. In fact, I've seen interviews with you, and I've seen that to be true. How frustrating can that be?
You know, I never questioned it before. Never questioned it. Cut to, I happened to be, you know, hanging out after one of his games, and, you know, just listening to the variety of questions that they ask, because they're not always about basketball. They can go anywhere, and the guys are just sort of stuck there. And I was sort of waiting for the balance question. You know, he was, you know, at the state, you know, he had full custody, has full custody of his kids. I'm like, oh, they've got to ask. He's got all these businesses. He's juggling all these, you know, he's wearing all these hats. They're going to ask about balance. They did not. And I was like, oh, the check clearing is all the balance that a man needs. As long as you provide, you are absolved of the responsibility of doing literally anything else. And they're assuming you're not doing anything else. So it's a non-question. Meanwhile, I work just as hard. Some might say harder, because my hours are a lot longer and I have to eat a lot less. And I have all the same hats, but they always ask women, well, how do you balance it all? Assuming there is such a thing as balance. There isn't. Balance is a pipe dream that they use to keep women in check and constantly off kilter. You know what I mean? Because if you're chasing this idea that there must be balance, they keep asking about it, you'll constantly feel like a failure in some aspect of your life. I must not be giving enough to my family. I must not be giving enough at work. I must not be giving enough to my community, charity, this, that, and the other. You know, and I'm supposed to be a cook and do the laundry and scrub the toilet. What? How come this became a me thing instead of an us thing? We're a team, but only I get asked. Women just are the only ones that get asked the question. So after I saw his little press conference, 45 minutes they all had with him. Not a question, not one question about balance. I stopped answering it. And when they asked, I was like, balance is BS, though I probably didn't abbreviate it. And let me tell you why. How many times have you asked that question of any man that you've ever interviewed, and they're like, carry the one? Oh, none. So I was like, so stop putting that onus on women to somehow have it all, be it all, and find some impossible balance that doesn't actually exist. What you need to ask for is, when have you received grace, and when have you offered it? That is a better question.
Yeah. And Gabrielle is so candid in this book. We don't have enough time to go into it all, but that's good, because by the book, she talks about, let me just put it this way. The next time she's late for a Zoom meeting, Dwayne Wade, give your wife a bottle of water. Okay. There's no excuse for that. All right. But here's the other thing though. And you're right. And this is, again, and Dr. Chavis can really appreciate this. You talk about how Sandra Bland, she knew her rights. She told the officer that when Black women assert themselves, you mentioned that when Black women assert themselves, that somehow threatens people. And this happens in retail situations, corporate offices, and school hallways. A Black woman can be minding her own business, and how she responds to provocation or even a random question will be used against her. I'll let you take it from there, and then we'll throw it to Dr. Chavis.
As much as we are constantly trying to shape shift for white comfort, for the white gaze, and for white validation, no matter the tone, no matter how kind or soft-spoken or sing-songy that you think that you are being, in this constant shrinking of ourselves, the constant minimizing of actual harm, the constant minimizing of the micro and macro aggressions, the all-out assaults. No, take the high road, the end result is that you think you're going to shape shift and assimilate your way into the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And then you do all these things for your whole life, and you look up and you're still the villain somehow. You're still angry. You're still bitter. You're still all of these negative things just existing. And you think that you've done an amazing job in compartmentalizing yourself and shrinking yourself and humbling yourself in order to appease white supremacy, basically. And what do you get at the end? You know what I mean? You still are dealing with all of the same stuff than had you just been your actual self. And I talk about this in the chapter about called Dear Isis. When I was given free reign to sort of develop my character and bring it on, I chose to make her respectable. I chose to make her a gracious winner. I chose to, soften her around the edges, because I thought that's what a good Black girl, a good Black leader, it was supposed to be. Cut to last summer, this meme comes out, and it's like the top movie villains. And my character of Isis in Bring It On was a villain. I was like, I didn't even say what I wanted to say. Like, oh, you want to cry? Let me give you something to cry about. Trust me, if there's ever a Bring It On sequel that I participate in, you're going to get the Isis's unfiltered truth.
Yeah.
But it was like, I wasn't even comfortable making a fictitious character okay in her and justifiable anger and frustration and the need for justice. I softened all of it, So by the end of the movie, when they lose, and I'm like, we were the best, right? Like, no, it should have been, when the playing field is truly level and you had to do your own work, it wasn't good enough. So take that L and smoke it. That's what I should have said. But I wanted to make her respectable. and gracious and classy. And to what end? I was still a villain. At the end, I'm still a villain. So yeah, that was the point of that chapter, and also helping people to understand that it doesn't matter the tone that you use. When people are committed to your oppression and to harming you, it doesn't matter how much you've assimilated. It doesn't matter where you live. Because remember, LeBron James, one of the biggest athletes in the whole wide world, they still wrote nigger on his door when the playoffs started.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter. Be who you are. Stand in it. Do not succumb to anti-Blackness. Do not succumb to the constant shape shifting, because you're going to end up in the same place, you know, that you started in.
Absolutely. Well said. Dr.
Well, you know, as I listen to Gabrielle Union, I hear an echo of Harriet Tubman. I hear an echo of Fannie Lou Hamer, Rosa Parks, Angela Davis, Gabrielle Union. You're representing a great tradition of outspoken leaders, Black women who are at the forefront. And I'm pleased to report to you that we represent the Black press, Gabrielle, and our whole executive committee is led by Black women. We have 230 African-American owned newspapers across the country. And Karen Carter Richards is our distinguished chair, publisher of the Forward Times in Houston, Texas. The question I want to ask you, in your career, how important has been the Black press to you?
My whole life. You know, I come from Omaha, Nebraska, and on the north side of Omaha, we had a paper, I believe they went out
Omaha Star.
The Omaha Star.
Yes.
And that was right next to, you know, whatever paper my mom was getting, the Omaha World Herald, and she'd get the New York Times. But the first thing we read was the Omaha Star, because that's written for us, by us, about the north side of Omaha that always went ignored. And, you know, obviously we're from Nebraska. It's not like there's a ton of things that go on, but when there is a paper that is solely dedicated to the enrichment and the acknowledgement of Black people on the north side, that's everything. That's literally all we had. So
yes.
I've always kept that with me. So when we're doing press for all these movies, and whether it's an all Black cast or I might be the only one, I want to talk to us. I want to talk to us about us in a way that I don't have to filter myself. I don't have to explain Blackness to then get to my point. So the Black press means everything to me. I have so many close friends who are Black journalists. I hear the stories. I've actually watched my peers walk past them on the carpet, on red carpets,
yes,
not acknowledge them during press tours. And it makes me die a little bit inside. And so when I realized, oh wait, I can choose who I talk to. I can do that. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. I'm going to need a Black journalist for this article. I'm going to need a Black journalist for this cover story. I'm going to need a Black photographer, creative director, marketer. Yeah, while you're at it, just all of it. FUBU, for us, by us.
There you go.
But if we don't, the people, when you get to a place where you can make those decisions and call those shots, and you still don't, you got to check yourself. You got to ask, what is it that you think they're giving you that you can't get from your own people?
Yeah, and it's so refreshing to hear you say that to someone of your stature. Again, you know, that's a message that we try and get across all the time. If you have a great story, and you're a Black superstar or just a Black person, Black press has been telling that story for 194 years. Before the end of slavery, we was founded. Before the end of slavery. So we really, really thank you. And we also know that there's nothing stronger. You got anything stronger? And we also invite you, and Dr. Chavis is sitting here, Gabrielle and Abigail is backstage, one of you, on your team members. Dr. Chavis has a national show on PBS TV and PBS World called The Chavis Chronicles. I think that you guys should get together for that.
We will.
That would
we
be
will definitely get together.
Yeah, absolutely. Gabrielle Union, you got anything stronger? Y'all got to read this. I'm not, people who know me know I'm not much of a reader. It's crazy coming from a journalist, right? But I read this. It's exceptional. You got to check it out. You got anything strong? It's available. Pick it up. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, wherever you go. Thank you so much, Gabrielle Union.
Shop local, support
Shop
your
local.
stores in your community.
Exactly.
Yeah, shop local. There you go. Always for the cause. That's what we love. We thank you so much, Gabrielle Union. And everybody, stay tuned for the Leadership Awards. Dr. Chavis, we're signing off.
God bless. Thank you, Gabrielle.
Thank you, guys.